I recently released a new video series called 7 Important Tools for Modern WordPress Developers. You can see some of the first videos on YouTube, but to get the full series, you would go to my website and sign up for it, and it'll come one tool every day. It was a really fun recording the series, but as I was going through it, I did not get to include every tool that I think is important. And one that's really been coming up a lot in my workflow is WordPress Playground. WordPress Playground is basically WordPress running in the browser entirely. So all the PHP runs through WebAssembly. It uses SQLite for a really small flat file database. It's just a really cool way to run WordPress. It opens up a lot of potential, and it's just made testing things and previewing things super easy because you don't have to spin up a local development environment for things like previewing how a plugin works or previewing a default theme. So I love WordPress Playground. We're going to talk about it. Let's take a practical example of how I'm going to load up WordPress Playground and what I would normally do with it. So I'm looking at testing the next release of WordPress. I want to see how things are going to look. I want to test it, eventually with some client sites, but I just want to see where they're at in the development process. So you can always go to make.wordpress.org/core/whatever release number you know is coming, and you'll kind of get all the information here. But what I really like is this release schedule. So you can see when all the release betas and release candidates will come out and when they're planning on releasing it. So right now they're up to beta version 2. And if I click, it'll just be like the landing page for beta version 2. And if you want to test, they give you a lot of options. You can download this beta tester plugin and run it on a site. You can just download the whole WordPress zip file. You can use WP CLI, which I'll use a lot on my local sites to kind of switch between versions and see how things are looking. But if you just want to play with the new version of WordPress that's coming, they include a WordPress Playground link. A WordPress Playground link is literally just a URL that provides a ton of information for WordPress Playground. So you can see it here that there's this like JSON object all, encoded into the URL. And what's going to happen is this is going to load an entirely, full version of WordPress directly in my browser that I get to play with. And because Playground is super powerful, they're going to do things like import a bunch of content, install a bunch of plugins, do a bunch of stuff. So that's how quick it loaded. I've got PHP 8.0. I'm running WordPress 6.6 beta 2. And you can see here, it's not just a standard clean WordPress. They put in a bunch of sample pages so you can kind of test, make sure everything looks okay. There's going to be a bunch of plugins installed, I think, things like the theme health checker, debug bar, a few other different things like this. So you can kind of mess around with testing other stuff, test create block theme. I would love, they even include query monitor. They don't activate it, but they include it. That's awesome. So lots of great stuff here. And then I can just go around and I can play with this just like a normal WordPress. So for example, this is the new beta version. One big change is that when you go into the post editor, it kind of looks the same, but you can tell it's actually loading the site editors like JavaScript under the hood, because now you have things like the command palette completely available to you. Now you have things like being able to rename a post from the sidebar, this very cleaned up sidebar that looks much better than before, featured image isn't hidden in a drawer, all these sorts of cool things. So I'm actually able to just go through this and test this completely in my WordPress browser. So let's actually do a little test here. One thing that's going to be super cool in WordPress 6.6 is let's open the sample page here. So you can see that here's the sample page. One thing that's kind of fun that's coming up is you can actually switch the page template. So you might have different page templates like sidebar, no title, something like that. So if I go to swap template, let's say I actually don't want the title to show up at the top because I'm going to make like a big hero section. I'm going to make it really custom. So I want the page no title template. So I changed it, nothing too exciting. It changed it right here. But now because like the way the site editor works and how pages are handled, I can actually click again and I can hit show template, and it's going to actually show me what the page is going to look like really in the template. Like this is actually showing the header, showing the footer. I can't edit these without like clicking through and kind of moving to another screen. So it's still pretty locked down. I can't really mess with the template design or anything like that, but I can at least see, hey man, this is what it's really going to look like on the front end of my website. Like I'm going to really be able to see that there's no title here. And because of this new sidebar that they've worked on, if I do need to change the title of the post, I can rename it over here. I get a nice little modal pop up. So this is really cool personally because I think more often than not, I don't find myself using the page with a title template that often. You start getting into landing pages, you want big hero sections with, sometimes you don't even want the H1 of your page to match the title of the page. So Just a lot of cool stuff. But again, back to what we were talking about, this is all stuff I can do by just messing around and exploring the new release inside of WordPress Playground, all because of how this information was passed through the URL. So if you want to learn more about creating these sort of URLs, things that you can do with them, you can come over to the WordPress developer.wordpress.org documentation and click, and you can see they have a full documentation about it. There's different APIs. Basically, do you want to put it in the URL and have it load up some cool stuff? Do you want to embed WordPress like in a little, iframe in your, content of a blog post so that you can show a demo as you're writing your tutorial, all sorts of cool things. You can initialize with JavaScript, sort of fun stuff. So all of that is to say, if you are interested in exploring WordPress Playground and seeing more examples, they just released a new GitHub repo that I would love to see eventually become part of a whole WordPress Playground, landing page section of the site, the same way that plugins and themes and block patterns get their own sections of the WordPress.org site. But for right now, it's a repository. And what it is a ton of these blueprints of WordPress Playground, which is a version of WordPress Playground, just like where we clicked and we opened WordPress 6.6 beta. You can click and you can open up WordPress with different things already turned on and already happening. So you can click and open up a WordPress with the latest version of Gutenberg. You can click and open WordPress, but you're not an administrator, you're an editor, because maybe you want to check out what it is like to be an editor, what they have access to. You can open up WordPress Playground with pretty permalinks, which is pretty awesome. All sorts of different things, adding posts, adding WooCommerce products, all these sorts of demos. And so if you're building a plugin, you're building a theme, you can eventually leverage this to make really good theme demos for people to try out your product, try out your theme. Lots of cool potential here. Eventually maybe something like load up a playground with some content and let somebody else edit it and send it back to you. All sorts of really cool ways that we're going to see extending this. So while this did not make it into my most important tools for modern developers, I thought I would do just a one-off video talking about WordPress Playground, talking about how much I love it, talking about how good it's made, testing beta versions, how great it's made, me just figuring out, is this a problem with me with WordPress? I just want to see what happens if I try this. I open Playground and try it. All sorts of cool things. Come and check out the Blueprints gallery. If you have any cool ideas for it, open up an issue and recommend your idea. I've definitely found that no idea has really proven impossible yet. They can really do some kind of crazy things with WordPress Playground. And if you haven't had a chance already, please sign up for my 7 most important tools for modern WordPress developers, where I give some more high-level views to some of the other tools that are, critical to my WordPress workflow and are going to make your WordPress development life easier. Thanks.